January 1943. The Eastern Front. A single Tiger I tank, commanded by SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann, holds a crossroads outside Kharkov against a Soviet armored thrust. Over 3 hours, his crew destroys 7 T-34s, 4 anti-tank guns, and a column of infantry carriers. The Tiger absorbs 11 direct hits. Not one penetrates. The crew drives back to their lines under their own power and files a routine after-action report. On paper, this is the story of a perfect weapon. It is not. It is the story of how Germany built a tank so expensive, so complex, and so difficult to produce that it handed the Soviet Union and the Western Allies the industrial advantage they needed to win the war. The Tiger I was not a war-winning weapon. It was a war-losing decision disguised as engineering brilliance. By the time the last one rolled off the line, it had consumed enough steel, labor, and manufacturing capacity to build 4 Panzer IVs. Germany built 1,347 Tigers over the entire war. In the same period, the Soviet Union built 57,000 T-34s. The United States built 49,000 Shermans. The arithmetic of that comparison is the story of why Germany lost. To understand how Germany arrived at the Tiger, you need to understand the panic of 1941. Operation Barbarossa had opened in June with stunning success. German armor sliced through Soviet formations that outnumbered them 10-1. Then, in October outside Moscow, German tank crews encountered something unexpected. A T-34 absorbed a Panzer III round at 200 meters and kept moving. A KV-1 heavy tank sat in a road outside Leningrad and stopped an entire German armored column for a day, absorbing hit after hit from guns that should have destroyed it. The reports that came back to Berlin were alarming. Germany's tanks could not reliably kill the enemy's best armor. The answer Berlin reached for was not mass production. It was not a simpler vehicle that could be manufactured in the thousands. The answer was perfection. A tank so heavily armored and so powerfully gunned that no enemy weapon could destroy it. That tank was the Tiger. The design had been in development since 1937, when Henschel and Porsche were both commissioned to produce a heavy breakthrough tank. The Porsche version used an electric transmission powered by 2 air-cooled engines. Innovative, technically elegant, and catastrophically unreliable. During trials at Rastenburg in April 1942, the Porsche Tiger broke down repeatedly. Hitler watched from the reviewing stand. The Henschel design was selected, but 90 Porsche hulls had already been built. They were converted into tank destroyers, the Ferdinand, which debuted at Kursk in July 1943 and demonstrated that a heavily armored vehicle with no secondary machine gun was extraordinarily vulnerable to Soviet infantry with grenades. Of the 90 Ferdinands deployed, 39 were lost in a single battle, largely because they could not defend themselves against soldiers on foot. The Tiger one that entered production in August 1942 was genuinely formidable. It weighed 57 tons. Its frontal armor was 100 millimeters thick. Its 88 millimeter gun was capable of penetrating 140 millimeters of armor at 500 meters and remaining lethal beyond 2,000 meters. At Villers-Bocage in June 1944, Wittmann would use that long-range lethality to destroy an entire British armored column in 13 minutes. As a weapon of destruction, the Tiger was everything Germany intended. The problem was everything else. the Tiger was a manufacturing catastrophe. Its engine produced 700 horsepower, barely adequate to move 57 tons. Fuel consumption was extraordinary, roughly 500 liters per 100 kilometers on road, far more cross-country. Operational range was approximately 140 kilometers, meaning a Tiger could drive from Paris to the front and arrive needing a complete refuel before it could fight. Its tracks were 725 millimeters wide to distribute weight across soft ground, too wide to fit standard European railway flatcars. For transport, narrow combat tracks had to be fitted before loading and replaced with battle tracks upon arrival. This took hours and required specialized equipment. On the Eastern Front, where rail lines were constantly contested, it was a logistical nightmare. The mechanical problems went deeper. The Tiger's overlapping road wheel system was a masterpiece in summer and a catastrophic failure in winter. Mud and ice packed between the interleaved wheels during movement and froze overnight, jamming the running gear completely. Soviet crews learned that the best time to attack Tigers was at dawn, before the engines had run long enough to thaw the frozen wheels. German crews sometimes lit fires under their own tanks to unfreeze them before an engagement. A Tiger required approximately twice the maintenance hours of a Panzer IV for the same operational period. When one broke down in the field, it was frequently abandoned. The recovery vehicles in German service were not powerful enough to tow 57 tons across difficult terrain. German records from the Eastern Front indicate that mechanical breakdowns accounted for a significant proportion of Tiger losses across the entire campaign. In some operations, more Tigers were lost to their own unreliability than to Soviet guns. The production numbers tell the clearest story. Henschel's factory at Kassel produced a maximum of 25 Tigers per month at peak output. That figure was never reliably sustained. Parts shortages, Allied bombing, and the sheer complexity of assembling 57 tons of precision engineering routinely pushed monthly output well below that ceiling. In the entire month of December 1943, fewer than 50 Tigers were completed across all variants. Soviet factory number 183 in the Ural Mountains was producing T-34s at over 1,000 per month by 1944. The T-34 was not the Tiger's equal in armor or firepower. It was available in numbers that overwhelmed any qualitative advantage the Tiger possessed. Soviet commanders developed straightforward doctrine for Tiger engagements. Fix the Tiger frontally with whatever was available, flank it with T-34s, kill it from the sides, and rear where the armor was thinner. It cost tanks and crews. But there were always more T-34s. There were never more Tigers. The resources consumed by Tiger production carried a cost beyond the tanks themselves. Every Tiger required approximately 300,000 man-hours of skilled labor. That labor came from a German industrial base simultaneously trying to produce Panzer IVs, aircraft, submarines, and artillery. Every Tiger that rolled off the Kassel line represented 4 Panzer IVs that did not. The Panzer IV by 1943 had been upgunned with a long 75mm cannon that could kill T-34s at combat range, was mechanically reliable, and could be produced in the numbers Germany actually needed. Germany built 8,553 Panzer IVs over the war. Had the resources devoted to Tiger production been redirected, Germany could have fielded several thousand additional medium tanks, vehicles that could be transported normally, maintained by ordinary mechanics, and replaced when lost. The Panther, introduced in 1943, illustrates the problem from a different angle. Better than the Tiger in several respects, sloped armor, high-velocity 75mm gun, better mobility, it was rushed into production for Kursk before its mechanical problems were resolved. Of roughly 200 Panthers deployed at Kursk, approximately 160 were out of action by the end of the first day, the majority through mechanical failure rather than enemy fire. Fuel pump failures, transmission breakdowns, engine fires. Panthers that had never been hit by a Soviet round were burning in the grass because their engines overheated. The pressure to field new weapons before they were ready, driven by Hitler's personal involvement in procurement decisions, turned two of Germany's most capable designs into liabilities at the moment they were most needed. The Tiger's legacy is defined by a paradox. Its tactical record is extraordinary. Wittmann's company at Villers-Bocage, Otto Carius on the Eastern Front, Johannes Belter's 139 confirmed kills. Individual Tiger crews compiled records that have no parallel in armored warfare history. The vehicle's psychological impact on Allied crews was profound. British tankers in Normandy reported Tiger sightings for vehicles that turned out to be Panzer IVs. American crews were trained to avoid Tiger engagements except under specific conditions. The fear was real and tactically significant. But fear does not win wars. Production capacity wins wars. The 1,347 Tigers, built over 3 years, could not be everywhere at once. When they were absent, German lines were held by armor increasingly outmatched by improving Allied vehicles. When present, they were frequently immobilized by mechanical failure, unable to reach crisis points, or abandoned for lack of fuel. A weapon that wins every engagement it fights but cannot be produced in sufficient numbers to be present at most engagements has not solved the problem it was built to solve. Germany needed to flood the battlefield with reliable, producible armor. Instead, it built 1,347 masterpieces that spent a significant portion of their operational lives broken down on roadsides, waiting for spare parts that were always somewhere else. The Tiger was the most dangerous tank in the world. It was also one of the most strategically counterproductive weapons Germany produced in a war full of strategically counterproductive decisions. Every month, the Kassel factory ran below capacity, every Tiger abandoned for lack of fuel, every maintenance crew spending 40 hours on a vehicle a T-34 crew could fix in 4. These were the true costs of perfection, not the enemy's guns, Germany's own standards. In a factory in Kassel in 1942, the first Tiger rolled off the line. It was the most heavily armed and armored tank in the world. It was also the beginning of an industrial decision that helped lose the war. The Tiger was not defeated by the Allies. It was defeated by arithmetic.